Thank you for joining me on the Southern Report once again. I never take your time for granted, and I'm very grateful for it. And again, one of the privileges of doing this is who you actually have the opportunity to talk to, and it's even better when they are a returning guest, because I always take that as a compliment. So I'm going to bring on, after that very, very apt intro in this particular guest of mine's case, I'm going to bring on retired Brigadier General Yossi Kuperwasser, who covers so many things, and we will get down and have an update and hear his opinion in regard to what is going on. Yossi, absolute delight to see you back on my channel, and it was really fun to see you on NewsX a few days ago when nothing was planned, but there we are, batting for Israel and supporting each other in the comments. How are you, sir?
I'm good, just fine.
Good.
Trying to analyze the situation and see what's coming, and doing that in between, running to the shelter from time to time. That's life in Israel these days.
Well, I've just had that. I'm having that conversation, or messaging people to say how are you, and having those conversations, and that's the reality of it. And I've just had a conversation with two dear friends of mine, with John Haller and Brian Schrager, and I said to Brian that when I'm interviewing people in Israel, talking to people in Israel, that genuinely to say, how are you? What's happening? It isn't just a media thing as though you feel it's like voyeurism when you're looking in. This is the reality for you as a nation and the reality on the ground. Yossi, with your experience, which is beyond considerable, we're if I've got my calculations right, I think we're 9 days into this war. You saw the build-up coming. Like many people in Israel knew what was coming. What are your thoughts, and what are your thoughts in regard to assessing what's going on from your experience, sir?
Well, I think that we entered this war in a very opportune time, when the Iranian Islamic regime is very weak, and its difficulties and problems were exposed with the demonstrations of the Iranian people back in early January.
Yeah.
And the fall of the proxies that it was supporting, Hamas, Hezbollah, Assad. That was all weakening the regime. We could have waited a little bit more to have it weaker even more, but there was an opportunity, and there was a fear that they are going to be the first to act. So we had to act, to take action when we did. And this unique situation where we had the opportunity to do it together with the Americans, after the Americans have already gathered such an unbelievable force in the Middle East for that purpose, and were ready to join hands and fight shoulder to shoulder with us. This was an opportunity we couldn't have missed, and fortunately we did not. And we are in the battle for making the Middle East a better place to live in, for making the world a better place to live in, and for making Israel safer, more safe. And that's what we are trying to accomplish. And I sincerely hope that this is going to be done with improving the living conditions of the Iranian people as well, because they definitely deserve that after everything they've been through in the last 47 years.
And we're mindful of the fact, even though, excuse me, that's not really talked about in various media platforms around the world as they want to forget about it. The fact that the appalling genocide that has gone on the streets of Tehran and other places in Iran in regard to killing their own citizens, and whether that's, we don't even know what the true figure is. It's 35,000, could even be 100,000. I don't say that lightly.
The chasm of the regime is so that they say, well, it was not 35,000, it was not 32,000, it was only 3,567. Yeah. What are you trying to say? That killing 3,500 of your own people is a justified move? But so what are they trying to say? The numbers, of course, much higher. And, it was devastating to see what they did to the people, demonstrating armless in the streets and being exposed to fire that was shot against them in order to kill them, not to harm them and to stop them, in order to kill them. This was really terrible.
We've seen the the reports of when people have been shot in the eye. The fact they've been taken into a hospital, they've gone into a hospital to be seen to by medical staff there, and the medical staff have been attacked, and then the bodies of those people that are injured taken outside with all the medical paraphernalia still attached to their bodies. They've been killed, and then left outside in black bags. And I'm not saying at all, I'm not making light of that. This is the reality that people outside Israel need to remember of what has gone on. And then we've seen incredible celebrations of the regime leader being killed, and the Iranian diaspora expressing the joy within that, Yossi, which is quite incredible to watch. Yeah. Yossi, as I said, nine days in, there was this build-up of this huge armada. And then the Americans are sitting down, well, Witkoff, etc., trying to negotiate with Iran. The prompt to then attack was the concern of that maybe they were further down the road yet again in regard to a nuclear weapon, and of course all the other ballistic weapons that they have. What are your thoughts on that, sir, as that was building up?
Well, the Iranians were trying to rebuild their nuclear project, the nuclear program. They were devastated by what happened in June 25, when the main facilities of their existing nuclear program were destroyed, obliterated, as President Trump used the term. And they were pushed backwards considerably. But this didn't mean for them that they have to give it up. Also, we would expect them to, but they didn't. And, they were trying to build even deeper in the underground facility that would enable them to enrich uranium and take advantage of the fact that they were still left with 450 kilograms of highly enriched uranium, up to 60%, and that is very, 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 very close to having fissile material at 90%. And they still had the knowledge of how to turn this into a weapon. And we had to make sure that they give it up. And this was one of the issues that Witkoff and Kushner were discussing with the Iranians, under what conditions the Americans are going to ease the sanctions. And one of the issues was giving up the enriched material. And they refused. They insisted on a limited time period of limitations on their nuclear program, 7 years, which means that they insist on having a nuclear program. And there was no way that the Americans would go back to another version of the JCPOA, the Iran nuclear deal. And even though they got this message from the Americans loud and clear, they decided to ignore it and insist on having the right to enrich uranium. And it was like walking with their head into the wall. And all the early warnings made no impression on them. Maybe they thought that the Americans are conducting those talks because they are uninterested in going into the alternative option, the military option, which was misreading the Americans. The Americans are definitely in favor of solving the problems through diplomatic ways. It's best for everybody. But if there is no way to reach a satisfactory result through the diplomatic channel, then the Americans were preparing everything in order to use effectively the other option, and which is being done now. And with this opening offensive that killed their leader, they are in a much worse situation now, and they probably regret not doing what they should have done. But I'm explaining it as one of the major reasons they just couldn't accept the American offer, because accepting the American offer would mean at home that they are weak, that the regime is weak. And the most important thing for them is not to admit in front of their population, in front of their constituency, that they are weak. They cannot afford that, because they are afraid that if they are seen weak, then everybody is going to be out in the streets and throwing them away from power. And that's why they couldn't have made it. And on top of that, they are committed to their mission. Their mission is to spread Islam in their version around the globe, beginning in the Middle East, getting rid of all the obstacles on the way, mainly Israel. And when they shout death to the big Satan and death to the small Satan, they mean it. They look at it from a theological lens, and according to which the messages that the United States and Israel stand for, the ideology that we represent, is satanic in their mind. And that's why they are committed to fight against Israel and the United States and not to make deals with them. It's not that they cannot make deals. They can make deals. There is a theological explanation and justification for that too. But it's not selling well, and it's reflecting weakness, and they cannot be seen as weak. And that's why they decided not to go in this direction, even though they were ready to show some minor signs of flexibility, but not really to make a deal, not to go all the way that would satisfy the United States and enable the deal. And they're paying the price. Now, the question, in my mind, the big question is whether the price is going to be high enough in order to really make them be removed from power. It's the answer to that question, in my mind, is that it depends how much time and how much effort is exerted, is spent on this channel and this avenue. If we go enough time, as President Trump says, 4 to 6 weeks, imagine what we have managed to accomplish in 1 week. If we continue like that for 4 to 6 weeks, then the regime is really going to be very, very weak and unable to govern. And they are going to lose many, many of their people. And eventually, what we are going to see is what happened with Hezbollah in Lebanon after fighting for 1 year against us, losing people every week. Eventually, they came to the conclusion that, okay, enough is enough. Let's give it up. And the same happened to the Iranians with the ending of the Iran-Iraq war. And at some point, they will be so weak that they will decide that they are ready to succumb to the pressure and accept the conditions of the Americans. And there are 4 conditions. 1, give up your nuclear program, bring out of Iran the 450 kilograms of enriched uranium to 60%, and the rest of the enriched uranium, all of the enriched uranium, bring it out and stop enriching and be exposed to real monitoring and verification system that is able to reach anywhere, anytime, to make sure that you don't have a nuclear program. Secondly, give up your ballistic missiles program, because these ballistic missiles are supposed not only to cause damage to everybody in the region, especially Israel, but not only, as we see, but also to supply some sort of a coverage, an umbrella under which the nuclear program can be revived. So you have to give up your ballistic missile program. You have to give up the idea of building proxies, terror proxies around the Middle East will be carrying out terror attacks on your behalf. And you have to give some sort of a commitment that you are not going to carry out another massacre of your own people, so that demonstrators in Iran can demonstrate if, safely. You don't have to necessarily accept their opinion, but you have to allow them to demonstrate safely.
Yeah.
And these are the four conditions that should be raised in front of the Iranian regime. We are not speaking about so many other demands that are necessary, but let's start with these four. We're not speaking about democracy. We're not speaking about respecting human rights. We're not speaking about stopping the denial of Holocaust and celebrating the Holocaust, as a matter of fact. And stopping the entire idea of the need to wipe off the map a member of the United Nations called Israel. There are so many other demands that we should raise vis-a-vis the Iranian regime that would have been reasonable to expect if the regime was changed. But as a minimum, we want to see the Iranian regime, even if it stays in power, accepting those four initial conditions that I mentioned in the beginning.
Yossi, were you quite shocked, surprised? Was Israel quite surprised that in a very short sort of couple of days, there they are firing on not just Israel but other countries around it, from UAE, Saudi, Kuwait, Qatar? So I think if I've got my geography right, have they fired on up to 12 other countries, including Cyprus? And just to clarify, even if our foreign secretary, who doesn't seem to know much, thinks that Cyprus is a member of NATO, no. So we'll just clarify that one. Were you surprised that they decided to launch missiles into those countries, including Qatar, which is a very interesting act as well?
Well, I was not surprised that they launched missiles towards the drones towards these countries in general, because the Iranians made it clear we are going to turn that into a regional war, and we are going to attack any country that hosts American bases.
Yeah.
And all these countries that they have attacked, almost all of them have American bases or British bases on their soil. So there was no reason to be surprised. I always take what they say as face value, and if they say that they're going to do it, they're going to do it. They don't pronounce empty threats. That's what they mean to do. We should have learned that lesson before October 7th. Had we learned that lesson then, we could have avoided it. But now, after October 7th, definitely we should listen to what they're saying. And I was surprised by some of the specific countries that were attacked. Not that much Qatar, because Qatar hosts the biggest American base in the region. It did. But the fact that they attacked Cyprus looked to me as a little bit strange, and the fact that they attacked Turkey, if they actually did, and probably did, was not in the cards, I would say. And same with Azerbaijan. I think that they went one bridge too far, but they are in this mood of attacking anybody they see in the neighborhood. So, which is a reflection of the pressure under which they are operating. They never thought it's going to be that bad. They never thought, well, they did think that this is possible, but they didn't think it's going to be materialized, this killing of Khamenei. And the fact that they didn't think so is manifested by the fact that they held this meeting in a vulnerable place.
Yeah, yeah.
They didn't think this was coming. And I think that they went a little bit too far, and I sincerely hope that their calculation was wrong. They thought that they are going to do that in order to gain two things. First, to hit the Americans and charge a heavy price from them. And they killed 6 American soldiers. And secondly, they thought that this is going to make the Gulf states and the other countries that they are attacking rush to Washington and say, "Oh, what are you doing? Stop it! We are under fire. We are not well prepared to face it. Stop it!" And the countries did exactly the opposite. They realized how dangerous Iran is under this regime, and understood that what is expected from the Americans is to hit them harder so that this threat is going to be taken away. And that's what we are trying to do. That's why I said before that I hope we should end up with a better situation for the entire Middle East, not only for Israel, because if there's not going to be an Iranian threat, everybody is going to feel to be safer.
Because they are the number one, they're number one state terrorism. That's what they've done. That's what they've done since 1979. They are number one. We're within that, Yossi. So this is fascinating. So you think they miscalculated what actions America and Israel would then take? Would they have even considered looking at what had happened with Maduro in Venezuela? Do you think we look back now, some of us may say that was actually another warning, especially with all their links with Venezuela and trying to give Venezuela advice on how to get around all the sanctions and everything? What are your thoughts?
Two things. First of all, you mentioned that they are the number one sponsor of terrorism in the world, and I would say that not only that this is right, I'm worried about the repercussions of that, because they support terrorism all over the globe, and they have all kinds of dormant cells that are waiting to be wakened up, and we should be very worried about international terrorism sponsored by the Iranians now. That would also invite some following from the Sunni side, because the big Satan is the big Satan for not only the extreme Shiites but also for the extreme Sunnites. So that's one thing. And the other, regarding Venezuela, yes, this was an early warning and a message to the Iranians, but they decided to ignore it because they said to themselves, okay, this is something happening in the Western Hemisphere. The Americans are worried about somebody who's threatening them from nearby. And this can be handled by picking him and taking him away to the United States. But look, the regime was left more or less untouched. So they said, well, it's not necessarily what's going to happen here, because we are a totally different regime. And they are. They are much more ideological, much more fanatic, much more theological than the Maduro Chavistist regime. And I think that no matter how many early warnings we would have sent them, they would ignore them all. It's exactly what happened to us before October 7th. We ignored all the messages of Hamas. We insisted that Hamas is deterred and so on. The Iranians believe that the Americans are afraid of confronting them. Who would confront Iran with thousands of missiles and readiness to sink the American air carriers and so on and so forth, readiness to close the Hormuz Straits, was raising the price of oil considerably? Who would do such a mistake? So definitely Trump wouldn't dare to do that. That was what they thought. And if he does, we have the capability to charge a heavy price of him, and we shall not fall this easily, because one thing is not going to happen. This is our safety net. Just like Hamas. By the way, it's very similar. Hamas safety net was the assumption that Israel is not going to remove them from power. Any ground operation of Israel is going to be limited, and they're not going to remove them from power. That was their safety net. The Iranian safety net is that, look, whatever happens, nobody is going to bring troops into Iran. There's not going to be boots on the ground. So how is anybody going to take us, throw us away from governing Iran? Without boots on the ground, this is not going to happen. So yes, we're going to pay a heavy price. Yes, it's going to be difficult, but we are in a jihadic mood. We are fighting for the noble cause of jihad, of Islam. And we are ready to make extreme sacrifices as we did throughout the years. They lost so many people throughout the years to maintain this dream of spreading Islam, their version of Islam all over the world. That okay, we can pay a few more, no problem. As long as there is no boots on the ground, we are safe.
Yossi, what about?
This means,
sorry,
by the way, this means that the real issue is whether they are really going to be weakened to the point where the public of the people of Iran are going to be feeling safe enough in order to go to the streets. And the answer to that is that we don't know. We don't know when exactly this is going to happen, but it definitely will take some more time. We have to be patient. We have to persevere. And if we are able to show that we have a longer breath than they have, then maybe we should be victorious and not only get the 4 demands, but get more than that regime change.
I hear you, and it's not, of course, understatement of the year. We don't know at the moment, especially after what the Iranian people have already been through, as we discussed the amount of people that have been killed on the street. But that's what they want, those kind of threats and bullying, and to get people to question that. And it's very easy for me to say, we await for that. I'm not in that situation facing that evil. But definitely pray that does happen. Yossi, what are your comments on Hezbollah and the fact that they have been firing rockets over, and then the leadership of Lebanon asking them, they need to disband? Or Yossi, what's your opinion of this and what's happening in Lebanon? We know that the IDF have been heavily warned people to leave the area that they have been attacking. What are your thoughts?
Well, first of all, I think that Hezbollah didn't make up their minds about what to do before the war, because they, just like Iran, prefer to believe that it's not going to happen. And once it happened, they hesitated a little bit, because the identity of Hezbollah is made of 4 elements. First of all, they are a terror organization, a jihadist organization fighting. They're prepared for that. They have so many weapons for that purpose. Secondly, they are a Shiite organization. They represent mainly the Shiites of Lebanon, but not only of Lebanon. They represent Shiites from all over the world. And they have to think what's best for the Shiites, and they operate according to that logic. Thirdly, they are a Lebanese organization. They have to think about themselves as Lebanese. That's why they invest so much in convincing everybody that they are the shield of Lebanon, the protectors of Lebanon against the Israeli attacks and Israeli expansionism and so on and so forth. And fourth, they are an Iranian organization. They were built by Iran, equipped by Iran, financed by Iran, guided by Iran. So they are an Iranian organization. Now, this is 2 of these identities were conflicting with each other: the Iranian identity and the Lebanese identity. And after hesitating a little bit, they decided to go for the Iranian identity. And everything they did was in support of the Iranians, because of the Iranian logic, that the proxies were there in order to charge a heavy price from Israel and to deter Israel from attacking Iran. And that was on the expense of the Lebanese identity. So once they did it, anyhow, their Lebanese identity was severely hurt when they showed solidarity with Hamas as members of the Iranian-led Axis throughout the year until between October 23 and November 24. So everybody in Lebanon were already questioning the real identity of Hezbollah and to what extent it is really a Lebanese organization. And the efforts of Hezbollah to show themselves as Lebanon's protectors were failing miserably. They were criticized by everybody. But now they decided to give total farewell to this part of their identity and put Lebanon in harm's way because of Iranian considerations.
Yeah.
And we warned them again. It's amazing. We warned them. We told them again and again, don't even think about it. Our reaction is going to be harsh. We're going to charge a heavy price, not only from you, but eventually this is going to be at the expense of Lebanese people. And you are a Shiite organization. You should care about the Shiites of Lebanon. The Shiites of Lebanon are going to pay the heaviest price. Don't do that. Don't go there. All our efforts were in vain. And as we know, they decided to go there and launch missiles in our direction. And there's an alarm here, but not in our direction yet, towards Beersheba.
Right, I hear.
So they decided to shoot, and we responded as we promised, as we warned in the beginning. And, they keep launching missiles and rockets towards us, and they keep launching drones towards us, and so the war is going on. It's very nice that the Lebanese government took all kinds of declaration and made all kinds of declaration and allegedly took steps, but nothing of the magnitude that is necessary for the Lebanese government in order to cope with this problem and to show that they have the monopoly over the use of force from their territory. Nothing at all. And they complain and criticize Hezbollah. Very nice, but you are the country that called Lebanon. You are supposed to take action, not to criticize Hezbollah and allow it to keep doing what they do. And as long as they don't do it, we have to improve our ability to fight against Hezbollah. And that's why we asked the Lebanese, mostly Shiites living in the south, to evacuate.
Yes.
And we asked the people living in the southern suburb of Beirut, also mostly Shiites, to evacuate, so that because we wanted to hit targets and we don't want to hit the population itself. So we asked them to evacuate. But this is not comfortable for the people of Lebanon, but at least they are not hit by the Israeli power, which I cannot say about the Lebanese government, Lebanese fire that coming from Hezbollah that is directed towards military and civilian targets as well.
Absolutely. And also, of course, Iranian rockets are then fired at civilian areas as well. Completely different mindset, Yossi. Do excuse me if this is an ignorant question. I apologize in advance. But do the Lebanon government have the wherewithal in which to take the action that's needed against Hezbollah?
No, they don't. Unfortunately, they don't. And they are afraid of confronting Hezbollah. And what we are doing is weakening Hezbollah, and we hope to weaken Hezbollah to the point where the Lebanese government will feel confident enough in order to carry out this job themselves. We don't want to do that. It's a Lebanese issue, but it affects us because they shoot at us. But the Lebanese government is the entity that should take care of Hezbollah. And they are committed, according to the ceasefire agreement, they are committed to disarm Hezbollah.
Right.
Which, of course, they don't.
Right. Yossi, you mentioned the JPOA earlier in conversation. What, from your experience, or looking back all over these years, because we know when President Trump has said the Iranians and you are not having a nuclear weapon. We know that Prime Minister Netanyahu has said that for years as well, drawing that concerns. Yossi, what's the biggest mistake that the West has made in regard to its dealings with Iran, in regard to those negotiations and the different mindsets, I think, that we are then dealing with?
Well, I'll tell you the worst mistake. The worst mistake was that they believed that if they ease the pressure over Iran and sign a deal with the Iranians, then the Iranian regime is going to change and Iran is going to become a positive member of the family of nations.
Yeah.
and all this nonsense. I can tell you, when I was told that I was then a member of the Israeli team that conducted negotiations with the Americans about the JCPOA. And when I was told that this is their attitude, I started laughing. I said, what? You really don't know who are the Iranian regime people, that they are not in the business of giving up the nuclear project. They are not in the business of becoming a positive member of the family of nations. They are in the business of spreading the version of Islam around the globe. This is the mission they got. It's a logical mission. It's they really believe that force should be used in order to make this happen. And that's their understanding of life. Don't fall into any trap, because of course they have Takiya and they have Hudaybiyah. They have all kinds of ways to show some flexibility, once they face a strong opposition. But they're not going to give up the raison d'être of the regime. That's what they are. That's what they exist for. And how can you even think that this is going to happen? And this deal was well, President Trump says it again and again. This was one of the dumbest deals in history, and maybe the dumbest. And yes, because this deal paved the road for the Iranians to have the capability to produce any amount of nuclear weapons within 15 years. It's ridiculous. And I was asking the people that were responsible for that in the United States at the time, what do you have in mind? Don't you understand that this is what's going to happen? The Iranians don't have to breach the deal. They just have to abide by the deal, and they'll get everything they want. Why would they breach the deal? It promises them a wide arsenal of nuclear weapons in 15 years. What have you done? And the response was that, look, the first couple of years of the deal, we get a lot and they get very little. Then when we get to the second part of the deal, they get all kinds of sunset clauses, putting an end to some of the limitations on their nuclear project, we shall be able to reassess. And if we see that they are really after a nuclear weapon, we can do something. There's a snapback and all kinds of mechanisms that are supposed to allow us to go back. I told them, look, the Iranians also know that. They will not wait for the time when you are going to snap back. They are going to rush to the weapons beforehand, which is exactly what happened.
Yes,
The deal still has. If we were still abiding by the deal, we would still have some time.
Do you think also? Sorry, go on, Yossi. I do apologize. Go on.
Yeah, I'm just saying that there is an alarm here, so I will have to go to the shelter.
Right, you go.
We
Please
can stop it here.
We can stop it here. Please keep safe, my friend. It's been an absolute joy to sit down and talk to you. Off you go. Okay.
Thank you.
Take care. Bless you.
Bye.
Talk to you soon. Take care.